I've got 3 stories for you. Pick one, whichever one sounds the most interesting, the most entertaining, the one you'd actually want to binge after a long day's work. Number 1, an old man works 2 jobs that he's way overqualified for. A medical diagnosis makes him want to turn his life around. Not like he starts going to the gym, eating healthier, and eventually becomes the president. No. He decides to team up with a junkie he knew in sophomore year and start a small business. What they make is really good, but it doesn't really go too well. They have a few falling outs, resulting in someone always ending up getting hurt, until they start working for a South American immigrant. Number 2, a businessman with a passion for robotics starts a family restaurant. He's a family man, the wife, 2 sons, and a daughter. In this restaurant, something terrible happens, something that tears his family apart. One of his sons is brutally killed due to an accident caused by his other son. This causes him to go down a spiral of emotions, eventually falling down a rabbit hole where he toys with life and death and becomes a serial killer. Or number 3, 4 creatures live in an open field, no trees, no animals, no way out. Every morning, a face in the sky watches them wake up, smiles, but never speaks. They don't question it, don't ask why they're there. Their only companion is a speaker embedded into the ground. When it calls, they obey. If it tells them to jump, they jump. If it tells them to dance, they dance. Pick which one sounds the most interesting to you. Lock in your answer. Hold on to it. If you're like most people, you probably picked the second or third one. They sound interesting, right? The first one probably sounds like a boring plot for a show that'll get cancelled after 1 season. If you said the second one was your favorite, congratulations. You just picked. Not a bad choice by any means, although some would be slightly embarrassed by it.
He won too! Was that the bite of 87?
Maybe you picked the third. Maybe you imagined some kind of dystopian nightmare, like a Matrix-style film, where the characters have to break free from their cycle. In that case, I'd suggest adding the Teletubbies to your watch later. For the rest of you, the ones who thought the first story sounded like a nice soap opera to watch with grandma after a long day's work, nope, that's Breaking Bad. Any point did you feel like you wanted to change your number? Maybe you switched from the Teletubbies to Breaking Bad, because out of the 3, you preferred the third one. But you much prefer over.
Tinky Winky, Tinky Winky, Dipsy, La La, La La, Ho.
Because the way we perceive things changes everything. As the writer Anais Nin once said, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. Another example would be, look at this gorgeous piece of art. We can all agree that this is an amazing work. How about I show you something else, done by the same artist? Does your opinion on the painting change? If I told you that one of the best stories of the past few years came from a Minecraft server, would you believe me?
Absolutely not.
No, of course not.
Hell no.
Hell, I wouldn't believe me. At first glance, it looks just like one of the other countless Minecraft SMP, grown men goofing around. However, I said at first glance, didn't I? A beautiful story blooms through the episodes. Not just a story, a gripping, character-driven narrative with shifting alliances, tragic betrayals, and emotional payoffs that can sometimes hit harder than some of the most serious TV shows out there. Unlike a scripted show, where writers decide every twist and turn, the Life series forces players to react in real time. That's what makes it special. There are only a few simple rules, which change each season, but I'll let Green explain the core mechanics.
Welcome to Third Life, an experimental Minecraft hardcore mini-series with a twist. I'm joined by 13 other Minecrafters, and all of us have 3 lives. On our first life, we have a green name, and all we have to do is survive in a very small Minecraft world and have some fun. When we die, our name will change to yellow. Now this is okay, but we're in hot water, because if we die again, we will be on our third life. Now this is where it gets interesting, because if you're on your third life, your name turns red, and your goal changes. You then become hostile and have to take out everyone else's lives on the server. And if you die in your third life, you enter spectator mode, and the series is over for you. This is going to be a lot of fun, so let's jump in.
But from those mechanics, combined with the element of Minecraft and the minds of these creators, slowly, a natural story emerges. The shrinking world forces people to form alliances, but paranoia makes those alliances fragile. Trust is temporary. Friendship is a gamble, and the moment survival is at stake, everything falls apart. And this isn't just roleplay. These are real people reacting in real time, making real decisions. That's why it works. Each season of the Life series tells a different kind of story, without ever truly meaning to. Just some of the examples of this are Secret Life. Secret Life was a puppet show where the watchers controlled the lifers' every move. No one got to choose their path. Their hand was forced. Scar didn't start a villain. Once the Secret Keepers backed him into a corner, he had no choice. He had to lie. He betrayed his closest allies. The system turned him into a monster, until he eventually embraced it, till he was the last one left, leaving him alone, hitting the succeed button.
The Secret Keepers tried to make me a villain this entire season, and it's like, why not just embrace it? Why not just become the villain?
Last Life. Last Life was about paranoia, as people were whittled down by their own teammates, by the boogeyman. Soon, they realized that no one could be trusted. Over time, as people got picked off, they are forced to forget about the camaraderie they've had, their alliances, their friends, their family, instead teaming up with other Reds, with the goal of wiping everyone out. Double Life. Double Life was about how trust can be dangerous. Everyone had found their soulmate, except for 4. Martin, Pearl, Scott, and Cleo. When they finally saw each other, they just abandoned Pearl, leaving her to become what's now known as 5 AM Pearl. Essentially, where she turns into this witch, an unhinged, emotional mess, with only her dog Tilly to accompany her. It was the only thing holding her back, until it was killed. She had no remorse in killing everyone who stood in her way. And these moments weren't scripted, they weren't planned. None of that matters to most people. Look at the Life series. All they see is Minecraft. Look, let's test it. What do you think about this?
That's just Minecraft.
About this?
Okay, what is this?
It's an animation of the finale.
Okay, no armor, no shields.
We're just gonna fist fight like our forefathers. Stargreen, Stargreen, Stargreen.
Filthy desert hippies.
What would you propose I do, my lord?
Those who have wronged us, and they will pay the ultimate price.
Nah, I don't want to play this silly game.
On with it, me laddie!
I want to do it this way. I want to do it exactly this way. It doesn't matter if you're an angel or a bad boy or a ninja or a clocker. None of these niceties. This is a deathmatch for a reason.
After initially watching the video with no prior context, I'd say the message or the purpose behind this animation is kind of hard to interpret. However, given the utilization of several sound effects and animation techniques, I feel like this is a significant moment within a greater overarching story. Perhaps this is like a climax or is leading to maybe a finale. And I was able to interpret this because, as I mentioned, the sound effects and everything, they work in conjunction with one another to create emphasis. However, as someone with no context, it was pretty difficult for me to interpret what they were trying to transmit with the animation. However, as they progress maybe 20 or 30, 40 seconds into the animation and they use some voiceovers and narration, I was able to interpret the message a little bit better and understand what the story was about, and I guess figure out that the key storyline behind this animation is there's an individual who's following the orders of a king, and there's a component of betrayal and those sort of conflicts within the story as well. But it did take me a little bit of time and watching the animation maybe once or twice to actually understand that that is the key message behind said animation.
We dressed this exact story up, high-budget cinematics, replaced the blocky characters, live-action performances. People would call it a master hell, even if it was animated. Just look at some of the amazing pieces of work the community has done, taking moments from the Life series, animating it, but because it's a game, it's played by YouTubers, people write it off whenever you give it a chance. That's the problem. People dismiss things way too easy, but the Life series proves something important. It proves that great stories don't need super high production values. They don't need a script or director or writing team. All they need is a group of friends and a community to back them up. The only reason people don't see the Life series for what it is, it's Minecraft. But if storytelling is evolving, traditional media is growing more and more accepted to video games in the mainstream. And maybe, just maybe, will come a day something like this will be seen on Disney Plus or Netflix. The budget from Minecraft to create something this compelling. The limited tools it has. What else are we ignoring? So, why does this happen? Why do we instantly dismiss things just because of how they look? Why do we judge a book by its cover?
Because the cover artist spent time carefully making a piece of art to attract the attention of the audience.
This happens all the time, across every piece of media. The way we judge storytelling isn't based on the quality of the story itself, it's based on where and how it's told. We immediately have assumptions about things based on how they are being told. For example, if we were to show a scholar a video game, richest story in the chances are that they would dismiss it. However, present them a novel telling the exact same story, they will appreciate it much more. Why is that? Because reading a novel is perceived as more difficult, intellectual activity. Watching it creates a sense that only higher level people can appreciate its value. Take another example, the use of Latin by the Catholic Church. For centuries, the Catholic Church conducted all its religious services, Bible readings, and official documents in Latin and only in Latin. That meant that only clergy, scholars, and the nobility, those with formal education, common people who spoke vernacular languages, had to rely on priests to interpret religious texts and doctrine for them. This gave the church immense control over religious and spiritual authority. It's not because these mediums lacked depth, conditioned to think certain ways, different types of media. This has happened before. Every time a new medium emerges, people dismiss it as lesser. In the 20th century, comic books were treated as disposable entertainment for children. No one took them seriously, until things like Mouse, a graphic novel about a man's experience in the Second World War as a Polish Jew and Auschwitz survivor. Works like this forced critics to change their view that comics, graphic novels, tell meaningful, deep, artistic stories. For decades, animation was seen as a separate category, something that only simpletons and children would pay attention to. Now, the world is starting to open up. Animation is becoming more and more mainstream. Then there's video games. For years, people were dismissed as games were dismissed as shallow entertainment. They're not real stories, critics said. Plenty of games tackle extremely tough and graphic topics. Here's the thing. It's just that people refuse to take them seriously until they look like traditional mainstream films. Here's an example. The Last of Us. The game was always respected in gaming circles. But outside of that, it was just another zombie game. Then it became an HBO show. Suddenly, critics and mainstream audiences called it one of the best dramas of the year. Same story, same characters, same emotional impact. Now, because it can fit into a medium people already respected, is taken seriously. So what does that tell us? It tells us that people aren't judging stories based on their quality. They're judging them based on how they are presented, their preconceived notions of what real storytelling looks like. What else are we ignoring? Finally seeing audiences open up to new types of stories. Animation isn't just for kids anymore. Video games aren't just simple entertainment anymore, but there are still great stories being ignored. Not because they're bad, just because of how they look. That brings us back to the Life series. If a Minecraft server produces storytelling that's sometimes on the level of professional production, sometimes even higher, most people never even consider watching it. Maybe time we start rethinking judge stories in the first place.
Yeah, so what? It doesn't really matter.
The problem is, This mindset isn't just limiting what people watch, it's shaping what actually gets made. If audiences have this certain perception of animation, indie games, or YouTube storytelling, then no one will invest in them. Whether that's time, money, that's why the majority of the animation that you see is made for kids. That's why animated gems like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish fight for recognition, even after being reviewed better than a whole lot of live-action films. If you were to tell someone that one of these gems was your favorite film, you would still have to defend your opinion fiercely. Until Arcane came out and won the Emmy for Best Animated Program, video game adaptations were ignored, have been for decades. No one believed a video game adaptation could be prestigious. Before The Last of Us became an HBO show, critics didn't take its story seriously. Before the Mario movie made as much money as it did, studios rarely invested that much money into these kinds of films. Now we're starting to open up. Keep limiting ourselves by putting arbitrary rules. What counts as a real storytelling? The Life series had Netflix level cinematics. We would call it genius. Concept is already amazing. 2 Chances at Life, final one. You yourself have to unmercilessly kill your friends. Because it's a YouTube series, because it takes place in Minecraft, it gets ignored. Look, I'm not asking you to watch the Life series. It's something that I personally enjoy. It's something that I personally really enjoy watching. However, I understand that it's not for everyone. And frankly, a lot of the story / lore comes from animations and animatics the community has made, alongside Martin in The Little Woods AU. Point being, if you see something that catches your eye, maybe it's animated, maybe it's in a different language, maybe it's in a format that you don't usually watch, don't immediately ignore it. Watch the first episode, then want to watch another, and another, until you've watched the whole first season, and you're fully hooked, trying to get whatever else you can find. Maybe try this out sometime. You may just strike gold.